If a child spells cat with a K, say you're very close, draw the two letters that are close and change the K to a C. But don't say that's wrong, because it has no... He says, I'm going to have to call your mother in. So I says, oh, I'll do what you have to do. So my mother comes in crying, the usual, you know, what did he do? She's going like that. And he says, he didn't do anything. Well, we really have no place for him in our schools. So I said, oh my God, what's going to happen to him? He says, I don't think you have to worry about that, because I'm going to take him to the bookstore and buy him whatever books he wants to read, and let him read what he wants to read in school. I'll rope off the area, but I want him to come to me once a week and tell me what he's reading and why he's reading that. So I'll have to tell you a little bit about other bits before I continue.
Sure.
Can I?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
We've got plenty of time.
Well, I wanted to know how airplanes fly as a kid on this thin substance. I could not understand it. So I asked my mother and father and my relatives. They had no information. So I finally went to the library and got out a book called The Wright Brothers. And I was very anxious because for years I wanted to know. I opened that book with great anxiety. And it starts out, it was a sunny day in May, and Mrs. Orville Wright was hanging clothing on the line. I didn't want to know that. That bothered me. And I had to go through the whole book was sunny day in May. And near the end of the book they killed a pigeon, and they put wiring in his wings to keep him out there. And they moved the wings up and back to find the center of gravity and launched it. And that was information. And when I'm back to school and I look at the books, most of it was sunny day in May. A lot of bullshit and little information. So I began to read and scratch the bullshit, the sunny day in May, and look for substance. So I was able to read more substance than sunny day in May. Then he died in about a year and a half after he set that up, and they took away that privilege. So I played hooky. I didn't go to school for 6 weeks. One day I came home and the truant officer was sitting on my doorstep. He said, "You Jacque, Fresco?" I said, "Yes." "You haven't been to school for a month." I said, 6 weeks. He said, "That's right." He said, "What do you do when you're not in school?" I says, "I go to the library and I read what I want to read. I go to the Museum of Science and Industry and look at what I want to look at." He says, "Do you hang out in gangs? Do you use drugs?" I said, "No, I'm not interested in that." He asked me, "What do you do at home?" I said, "I have a little lab. It's not very elaborate." He said, "Can I see it?" I said, "Under a condition that you don't tell my mother who you are, because she would become hysterical."
Yeah.
He said, "I agree." I shook hands with him and I showed him my lab. Then he said, "I can't say you're wrong, you're not doing anything bad." He says, "You can do me a favor if you want to." I said, "What kind of favor?" He says, "Show up Monday, just to show that I did my job, and you can play hooky all you want to." So I liked the guy. He was a nice guy, and I did that, and I never went back to school. I began to hitchhike toward California. Why? Because airplanes dropped pamphlets. They said, "Come to California, there's lots of jobs." And I couldn't get a job. My father couldn't get a job. This is during the Depression. The banks failed. They paid off a new home. They didn't pay it off. They made down payments and several payments. When the banks failed, they couldn't continue the payments. So they were evicted.